welcome to 30 Minutes Exploring Coaching. To all beautiful souls out there, I'm Coach Remy here, and thank you for tuning in. Today we have with us here an accredited coach, teacher, a mother, and a heart-centered soul enthusiast who loves helping people. In what way? Well, I'll let her share in a moment. A well-experienced mother of 5. Yes, you heard me right. 5 teens and a teacher, along with her involvement with complex trauma, which brings her a well of compassion and empathy to those seeking clarity in their life. Well, even with all those responsibility evolving around her life, during her leisure, she would love spending time in the country Australian farm, which she spends most of her time connecting not only with her family members, with all her farm animals as well. And at times, she can be a horse whisperer too. So let's welcome Coach Catherine.
Hi there. Thanks for that awesome introduction, Remy. I really appreciate that. It's great to be here today.
Yeah. So, Coach Catherine, perhaps you can share a little bit more about yourself to our wonderful audience out there.
Yeah, thanks. Well, you pretty well just said it all. A lot of different hats and a lot of different faces that I have. Being a teacher has given me a lot of different experiences in life. Being a mother, those people that have had the privilege of being able to get to experience motherhood or parenthood, know that comes with all its challenges as well. But more specifically, having gone through my own trauma and spending a lot of time suppressed and shut down, and even though through that adversity and problems, going through that period of time and realizing that I can actually find some help and learning all about coaching and all about our mind and our mental health and how we can work with it, not against it. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
Well, Coach Catherine, please share with our wonderful viewers out there what brings you to this beautiful journey of coaching.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I had found that it was only actually in 2018 I had an experience where I was busy working. I had a successful teaching job. I've got a beautiful 16-acre farm here with animals, all sheep, and we did have cows and horses and chickens and all those type of things. And I was managing to keep myself busy, raising my 5 children and going through doing the doing, right? And I got to a spot in 2018 where I had actually stopped feeling. I got to a point where I just was numb and I was getting home tired, turning the television on and just, really numbing out. And I reached out to somebody, thinking it was my problem with my horses, because I was very connected to my horses. And she said to me that I had stopped feeling. And when she mentioned that to me, of course, there was resistance at first. And she asked me if I had some trauma that I had been suppressing or undealt with issues. And that opened up a complete Pandora's box of emotions for me, because I had never kind of shared with people the experiences that I had been through as a child and into my teenage years, and how much those young years had impacted my life to keep me closed down and keep me shut down, and how almost those are the things that led me into the situations in my life. So I had a bit of a reaction to that, and it opened up a whole new world of thoughts and understanding emotional regulation and feelings, and just becoming more self-aware. I suppose that I had shut down so much that I was doing everything for everyone else, the chronic people pleaser, and hiding behind perfectionism, trying to always do better than I always had done. So it was really about now a new growth. And at first there was a lot of resistance. I didn't want to do any of these things. I always had a passion for psychology. I had done 3 years of psychology studies in my bachelor's when I did my Bachelor of Arts before doing teaching. And yeah, so I knew a bit about psychology, and I had mental health issues in my family. But I was determined that I wasn't going to let those things get in my way. And it wasn't until I stopped resisting and realized that actually the best way is through rather than staying stuck. And I was basically just staying stuck. And then when I come to that realization finally, after a lot of resistance and fighting and emotional turmoil, I finally came to the realization that I needed somebody to help me through, and that led down my journey of therapists and coaches and experiencing, psychologists and that type of thing, and getting to experience the different types of services that were out there. And I learned and realized that there were a lot of people that were then healing with trauma and dealing with our trauma and our problems that have happened in the past. But there wasn't a lot of people that were offering, or to my world anyway, that were offering something for it to work with the now and with the future and planning ahead with possibilities. And that kind of inspired my sense of adventure. And I decided, I think coaching is something I want to get into. So while still teaching, I've kind of dabbled into the world of coaching, and it's really opened up a whole new world for me. And I get to meet wonderful people like you as well. So there you go.
Wow. That seems to be unloaded a lot from your Pandora box.
That was a lot.
Yes, which brings me to, well, after hearing from where you come from, I'm sure that you have done some of the work that need to be done on yourself and all that. Then from here to the future, is there any particular group of people that you would love or you have been working with all this while as a coach, Coach Catherine? Can you please go deeper into it? What kind of group of people that you can help or assist most through your journey?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I have been mostly, it's interesting because we tend to attract people that have been through similar situations or feel the same ways that we do. And I have found that across my journey that I've met a lot of people who are feeling stuck, who are feeling shut down, who are feeling like they're victims of their trauma, and they really just don't know how to respond or how to react. They're in this place that they're always trying to please people, and they never seem to be able to get ahead of themselves in a way. Their victim mindset, they're telling themselves, that voice in their head, that chatterbox that keeps constantly saying to them, you're a loser, you're not enough, you don't matter, you're unlovable. All those voices in their head, I seem to be attracting those people that are coming to me and going, hold on a moment, Catherine seems to know a little bit about this stuff, and she hears me and validates me, and maybe I'm not as wrong as I thought I was, or maybe I'm not that bad girl or bad boy that I had been raised to think that I was. And maybe I might just be able to find out a little bit more about myself and start to discover that there are ways that I can direct my life into getting what I want in life rather than what I've been given. Kind of like I've used a lot of analogies to do with the trees, right? Instead of being the leaf that's tossed to and fro, we can become the trunk or the stump that holds the tree, and we get to grow deepen our roots and strengthen our branches so that we can turn into whatever tree we want. We can bring out our blossoms or produce our fruit. But yeah, so that's the kind of people I attract, people who are heart-centered and people who want to make a difference in their life, start living a life more aligned with their heart and their head and their soul.
Wow. You mentioned a very interesting word here, stuck, just now, right? With some of the people that you work with, they feel stuck. Okay, I'm sure that a lot of listeners or audience out there who are tuning in today who felt that they may have some kind of trauma in their life, be it from maybe level 1 shallow type to those deeper kind of trauma, but they have not been exposed to things like maybe engaging a coach or dive into a coaching session before. Well, I'm sure they have their fear and their doubts, right? What if I were to engage a coach? Will they like dig deep into my wounds and make the pain more painful? I'm sure they have these questions, doubts, and all that in their head, right? Could you please enlighten this group of people that it's okay to move forward and to reach out to a coach like you, Coach Catherine?
Yeah, totally. That's a really great point. And that quite often people who are in that, what we call victim mindset, it's a state where we've been trained or we've learned to put ourselves into that situation through the experiences that we've been through. And as a result, there's a lot of fear and a lot of doubt and a lot of question, because we hear all those big people in our lives that have told us that we shouldn't trust people and that we shouldn't have all these things. So we've got those messages often going on in our heads. My advice to those type of people is really just about trusting yourself, as far as trust what your intuition says to you, and trust that if you get a good coach, like, because there's plenty of coaches out there right now. I mean, anyone can Google, there's hundreds of coaches out there. The thing is, you want to find a coach that you can align with, that you can build a relationship with, because it's relationship type of healing that will help you. Because quite often that's where the breakdown has happened, and the relationship with yourself is the first thing that goes, because we abandon ourselves in those particular situations when we get into trauma, because we don't know what we don't know. So we listen to what everybody else says and we deny our very thoughts and feelings. So we need to find someone who we can trust, that we can spend some time with, and learn to trust them, that they've got our back, and that they can help us to kind of heal forward through this, rather than reliving the experiences, which you don't want to be doing. No coach wants to be putting through their client in, well, I would hope anyway, would want to be putting their clients through constant trauma. The idea is to heal through their trauma, so that we can, I used to like to use the analogy of a sword, grazed knee or a hurt knee. We don't want to keep hurting it by rubbing it raw every time. We want to put some soothing balm on it, and give it what it needs in order to be able to air out and repair. Because often covering it up with a Band-Aid will only cause it to fester. So it's time to kind of bring out those things, and stop living in the shame and guilt that isn't necessarily ours to keep stuck in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, for example, if I myself have gone through some trauma of some kind of my own, I'm sure my self-trust towards myself would have been shaken, or even I lost it along the way, right? So in what way, if I were to engage you as my coach, Coach Catherine, can help me? Well, maybe perhaps you can just brief me in a very simple layman way of how you can help me to build my own self-trust now that I've lost it.
Yeah, really great question. So this is definitely the work of a coach, because a coach will help you rediscover who you are. And like, I guess specifically my program is about the KADY program, which is my acronym, I guess, is the KADY, which is the Kindling Awareness and Discovering You. And it's about kindling inside ourselves that light or that glow that sometimes we've lost along the way, that, that like childhood wonderment when we were kids, how we just played and had fun and we felt so free and light. And at some point in our life that changed, and we that spark inside us dulled, and this doesn't happen to everybody, but happens to too many of us, unfortunately. And it's about finding that glow inside you again, and reigniting it, and finding those things that make you feel good inside, that light you up, And that's about looking at your values. That's about looking at what's important to you, your goals, the things that that drive you towards your better tomorrow. And any good coach I can say any good coach, but you want to keep finding your coaches, going through and finding somebody who will help you do that. And I know I have a few clients that have gone to different coaches and gone, no, it's not for me, it didn't work. But I want to challenge them to say that there is a right coach for you out there. It's not about, like, if one is not working, that doesn't mean they all don't work, because different people will use different programs in different ways. For instance, I'm a very compassionate and kind coach. I like to do it gently. Whereas you might meet another coach who's more firm and wants results, and they're more hard and push. So depending on you and what you need, like, will be what you are looking for in a coach. So don't just take one and then give up. Keep looking until you find somebody who you can align with, and create that connection, because you're really important, right? And you're worth doing the work to find somebody who you can connect with. So, and there are a lot of amazing coaches out there. It's just a matter of looking. I think one person once said to me, it's like looking for a hairdresser, right? You try out all different hairdressers, and you might like that one, but you don't like, oh, that one's really chatty, and you don't like, oh, that one is chatty, and you like that one, So it's just about finding and trying the different ones until you find one that you like. And then you stick with that one, and you follow that through, and you listen to their messages, and you listen to their words, and you listen to whether it's talking to you here. And if it starts talking to you here and you start to feel like you can trust, then lean in, and you might just be really blown away and surprised with what you can gain from coaching. Yeah.
I'm sure there are like different stroke for different folks out there. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, for our listeners out there, one experience with a coach that doesn't work out doesn't mean that the next one will never work for you. Keep on exploring, keep on reaching out. Never feel stuck, and never feel that you're alone. Reach out. Reach out. Yeah.
Great message.
Yeah. Well, Coach Catherine, I have been asked through my coaching journey also that people will ask questions like, okay, now that I know that I have this kind of trauma, what's the difference if I were to visit or to engage a therapist and a coach, or even to visit a psychiatrist? Perhaps you can highlight that part out.
Yeah, that's a really great question, one that I'm often asked specifically. So for me, it's like, or for the client, basically, it's whether or not they are able to manage the intensity of their experience, I suppose. Because if you're finding that you are having constant panic attacks and unable to work and unable to do things, and you're not able to manage your emotions, then you may need a professional. And there's many different ways. There's different therapists, psychologists, and you're much better off getting an expert that's going to help with that specifically. If you're in a position where you know that your trauma is keeping you in the way, and you're ready to take action, and you want to be the driver of your own bus, you're the one that's like, you know what, I'm sick of putting up with this. I'm ready to make changes in my life, and I want to do this. That's when you instigate a coach, because the coach is somebody who doesn't do the work for you. They do the work with you. They stand there beside you and shine a light in your life so that you can find the way through. They shouldn't be the ones that are running your life for you. They're not the ones giving you all the answers. They're literally there helping you make sense of your world. And that's what a great coach does, is that it's really about them discovering themselves so that they can do what they want, not what the coach wants them to do, right? And so you've got to have somebody who's in that mind space that's ready to make changes. If you're debilitated by your trauma and unable to see anything good in the day, and you're often feeling depressed or blue or constantly in a state of fear all the time, then you need professional help. That needs to be sorted out first. and then you come and see a coach, and then we get you moving into your future and into your better life, better world. Yeah.
Oh, I hear you. Well, from what you shared just now, are those that people or group of people that they're already aware that they have this trauma, be it on the lighter side or on the deeper end of it? What about those that without realizing that they themselves have been through trauma during their growing up period of time, but somehow certain behaviors in them has been influencing them, the way they live their life, or there are certain patterns in them, you know? So without realizing that, wow, I have been through certain, even though when I asked them this question, they said, no, not that I know of, I have a happy childhood and all that. Maybe, they don't, or they are never been discovered, right? So can engaging a coach like you help someone in this kind of so-called dilemma or gray areas, right? In between whether I have a trauma or I don't have a trauma.
Yeah, that's such a big question, actually, because we all have, in a sense, a form of trauma. There's nobody in the world. If anyone tells you out there they've got it all together, you don't trust them at all. There's not a single person. You just have to look at all the celebrities and all the drama and problems they are having. Like, they're rich, wealthy, they've got it all, and yet they're still having all those problems, right? Yeah. So there's no one out there that has no problems. The thing is that it's what you want to be doing about those problems, or what we call challenges, because problems are not necessarily problems if we see them as challenges. So quite often when you do work with a coach, you start to see things in a different way, and you start to see that as you lift off that safe bubble that you've been living in, that little tiny place that you've been living in, as you start to expand it and see that your world is actually bigger and brighter, and the possibilities that you go through, things definitely come up. Like, things absolutely come up that have got in our way, limiting beliefs and things that we've been telling ourselves for all our life, all of a sudden become clearer that they've been the things that are stopping us from achieving what we've been wanting to achieve. That quite often those things are the shackles that are holding us back. So yeah, you're going to get exposed to experiences and having aha moments and going, oh, wow, I didn't realize how much that impacted me. And I guess it's about how you visualize or how you experience the trauma as to how you process it, because it's not the job of a coach to remind you of all your worst things that happened. It's about finding ways that you've been holding back from experiencing the things that you've wanted to live. So if that is one of those things that's stopping you, let's remove that rock from your shoe so that you can make your path walking a lot more comfortable. And that's what a coach will do, is that's about what we will do. It's not going to be all easy walking. It's about the hard slog. It's literally like a coach that's training for an athlete. They're not going to turn around and say to them, yeah, you know what, you sit there on the couch and I'll go and do the jogging for you, right? Or you just sit there and eat cake and you can run your marathon in a week's time. Not going to happen like that. A coach will push you that little bit of a stretch so that you can expand your experience in your world so that you can get more out of it, bit by bit, like a balloon that starts off really small, and the more we push air into it, the bigger and the larger it gets. And in our case, the balloon never pops. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's all encompassing. And that's the adventure. That's the adventure and the possibilities of what. Yeah. Oh, look, when I first started coaching, it's not even nearly been that long ago. It's like just over a year and a half. I mean, I've had a coach inside me all my life, right? But a year and a half ago, I had no idea of the experiences and the things that I have been able to do as a result, like to get to where I have now, and the people I've met, the things I've done, the fears I've conquered. Just so many things have been worth doing to just step outside that safe place and break those glass ceilings,
Yes. Well, which brings me to a question that now that I have a children of my own, if let's say that I have been through certain trauma knowingly or unknowingly. But if I don't do the work to so-called heal on my part, will that somehow affect the way I do my parenting?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Because if we're a child inside, or we're unable to reparent ourselves or to look after ourselves, then how can we really fully be there present for our own children? And 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 not only that, but how are we demonstrating that and teaching that to our kids, our children that are coming up after us? Are we giving them the full skills and the full capabilities of what we really have, the possibilities of what they can be? Are we giving them the opportunities to really flourish in a life where they have a secure attachment, that they can grow up and become, you know, the best that they can, the ultimate part, the ultimate best person that they can. And that comes from us demonstrating to them, which is often interesting. The opposite that was happened to quite often people that have been through severe trauma is that they didn't get good parenting. And as a result, their parents knew no better, right? Their parents never had a coach necessarily to help them. So often it's their parents, and et cetera, right? That have been the results that's been passed down. It's like, it's just so many things that we get passed down that like children should be seen and not heard, and when do we learn that it can be different, that actually children have a lot to share, and they've got so many amazing things that they can share with us and that we can grow together. And so we learn to communicate in a different and a more healthy way, a more resourceful way. But we only learn that by removing those like harsh and hardcore kind of, what would I say, like boundaries or firm kind of iron rod stick kind of rulings that we had quite often from our parents, that they didn't even necessarily know. They were dealing with stress. Many of them had gone through, poverty or war, and they were passing down that we can't. And so for some reason, a child has been brought up with no explanation and no understanding, and then all of a sudden they become a parent and they don't know any different. But you know what? We have an opportunity to know different now. We have an opportunity to know different and to break the cycle. Time to break the cycle and start helping ourselves so that we can help others. And then our line has a trajectory
Yes.
towards a different experience.
Yes, from what I'm hearing is that most of us, if haven't been in this coaching path before, we are like indirectly inheritance of our generations and generation of generations unhealed inner child.
Yeah, inner child stuff. You want to talk about inner child stuff? Go and talk to Coach Remy. He knows the stuff about the inner child stuff.
Yeah, so instead of inherit those good things, we inherit all those unhealed inner child wounds of our great grandparents, right?
Yeah, it stops now and it stops here.
Yes. So now that we have Coach Catherine here, to guide us and all that, having this kind of awareness, like you say, it's time to put a stop on all this unwanted legacy that our parents or great grandparents pass on unintentionally.
Yeah. I think one person once explained it to me as, we've got this big cart and we're pulling this cart and it's full of all the collections of our grandfathers and grandmothers and, the generations for generations and generations. And we're pulling this really heavy cart along, and someone along the way stops and says, "Why are you carrying this cart?" And you're like, "Oh, because it's my grandma's favorite, teapot that she had when she was from 100. And then I've got this thing here that come from there. There's an old sack that's all decomposing and falling apart. We've got all these things that we've collected as baggage along the way. And we're dragging it through our life, and then we're wondering why we're so dragged down all the time and why we're so exhausted carrying everyone's problems. And often one of the biggest issues that we're carrying with people from those baggages is shame. We carry our generations of shame through us which we don't have to carry anymore. We can just say thank you, but no thank you. And that's a whole new experience that people go through when they start to meet a coach and start to realize they don't have to experience the things that they're experiencing. And at first, that can come across quite challenging. But over time, they start to realize and release those things one at a time and just make the burden a lot easier. A lot easier.
So coming from a place that through your experience, your wisdom and your insight, right, in terms of complex trauma and other types of trauma. So to those our listeners or audience out there, right, who have been through some kind of trauma and still standing on the border of the fence, whether should I or should I not seek help or reach out to a coach, what would be your one key message to them?
Yeah, definitely. You need someone there to help hold your hand, right? And there are people out there. There are a lot of people out there, and they want to help. There's like I genuinely feel, and I know there's other people like me who, from their heart, want to remove people's suffering. That's my purpose in life, is to remove sufferings of people. There's no need for it. We don't have to suffer. We will continue to have suffering in the world, unfortunately, because it exists. But why not remove the suffering that we can remove? And so if they're sitting on that fence and they're waiting for that opportunity, you're not going to get the opportunity unless you step out of your comfort, of that zone, that place, and just have one minor, little tiny step and give a chance and be prepared to do that one step and just go, look, what you say is interesting. I just need someone to talk to. I just need someone to help me. Please hold my hand. All it takes is for you to just say, I'm ready. I'm ready. I want to make a change. It starts, like you said before, right? It starts here. It starts now, and it starts small, and it's directed by you. So you decide the pace. If you want to go fast, you go fast. If you want to go slow and take it easy, you take it slow, because that's what coaching is all about. Our clients. I adapt my programs to suit the individual. I don't have a one size fits all program that I go, here, yeah, just go do that. Off you go. It's about talking to each person, each client, and individually finding out what their needs are, so that they can get whatever they need. If it's gentleness, and they need to have just that space to be themselves for a little bit before they up and off. You know, it's like riding a bike, right? Some people get on a bike, put the training wheels on, and they're on training wheels for months and months and months, right? And they need that parent holding that bike. Others, they get on training wheels every now and then, and within a couple of weeks, off they go. Some people don't even need the training wheels. They just jump on a bike and ride, and they go for it. But you need to get on the bike in order to be able to experience the riding of a bike. So the first step does definitely start with the client. The person who's in that place, they need to be able to make that very first step, and then we meet and match along the way. That's the way it goes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautifully said, Coach Catherine. Well, to all our beautiful listeners out there here, while the coaching bus is still here, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, to Coach Catherine or to me, right? We can be reached at our emails or our links, which you can see on the screens out there. Remember, you don't have to suffer alone. Always feel free to reach out, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Coach Catherine, for painting a beautiful picture of what this coaching is all about. And thank you till our next time on 30 Minutes Exploring Coaching. Thank you and bye-bye.